5 essential practices to improve your public speaking. Miss Diana is often asked what are the top 3 or 5 things that you help people with. And here are 5 things that she usually shared with other people. The first thing is she will share with us how we can learn about practice public speaking every day. The second thing is how people focus on the wrong thing and what to focus on instead. How to reduce time wasted when preparing to speak. Learn what is the aim of a presentation and harness the power of 3 to increase your impact and decrease your presentation time. So Miss Diana Thomson is an international speaker. She started her training in Singapore when she felt she had no voice but something to say. 4 years later, she started her business SpeechMarks Coaching to empower women with public speaking skills so their voices can be heard. It has expanded to include all genders as the demand for her experience and knowledge and an engaging approach grows. Miss Dinah is a professional keynote speaker. She provides public speaking workshops, private coaching, DISC personality profiling, and MC services. She co-owns She Says So, the Women's Public Speaking Club, which supports women to reach their potential by gaining self-confidence through public speaking. Hello, Miss Diana. Welcome to the show.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou, katoa, which is a Maori greeting in New Zealand for hello and welcome. So thank you for inviting me to join you today.
For sure, Miss. What is the first question that we're gonna have for you is, how can we practice public speaking every day? Because sometimes some people just say that unless they go to stage in order to present, otherwise it's hard for them to practice their public speaking skills.
That's something that I struggled with early in my speaking adventure that you introduced, started actually when I was living in Singapore, and thought it's only when I'm standing up in front of my Toastmasters group or later as I was presenting in workshops that I would do this. But I realized it's in fact, there are 2 really essential things, and I'll come to those in more detail, about public speaking that people don't do well enough, but they can practice every day. One is the voice. So you can practice every day using vocal variety, pauses, pace, speaking faster, slower, being high-pitched or being deep voice. You can practice that every day, just talking to your friends and family, and you can be aware of it. And the other one, of course, is the body language, so facial expressions. And so because you use those and employ them in every day, you can practice the important public speaking skills every day. You don't have to be on a stage or in front of an important meeting. And you can become aware of those. You can tune your tool, your voice, and you can also look at a small group and say, do you know what? I'm going to prepare for this conversation. I'm going to plan out what I say a little bit more because I want to practice that skill of planning out an answer or a response. So yeah, you can practice every day. You don't have to be in front of a stage. And then when you do get into those more formal situations, those ones that might make people a bit nervous, you'll then know that you've got the really important bits that you can bring out and use as a tool.
I see. Do you have any exercise to practice our voice or even body language at home?
So what we do in our house is that we often rehearse to ourselves, and we might say, of course, that's not what I meant. And then we'll try in a different voice. Of course, that's not what I meant. Now, they're the same words, but they have very different meaning just by the voice. And of course, if you put facial expressions, of course, that's not what I meant, versus, of course, that's not what I meant. they're very different. So you can be a little bit theatrical and practice those either by yourself, in your bedroom or walking around, or maybe with other people there. So you can practice those, and you can sort of maybe give people warning that you're practicing these sorts of things. Voice-wise, there's lots of different voice experts, singers and people that are specialized in musical theatre. They all have the voice warm-up, so doing the pa, 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 pop, 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 all those sorts of things to loosen up the voice. With the body language, there is one universal piece of body language that the whole entire human race use. Do you know what that is?
I think you mean the universal facial expression.
What's the one universal body language? Yeah, the smile. Okay, everybody in every country uses the smile the same way. It's just automatic, So that's one of your biggest, most universal, important tools to use is a smile, using eye contact. Practice those gestures. If normally you speak with your hands, and you go, oh, figure out what's normal and what's comfortable for you, and make sure that when you have a more formal public speaking situation, you use those as well.
Yeah, so let me wrap up this point. It means that in order to practice our voice, we may want to play different characters in order to say one sentence, right? And then this is how we can practice our voice. The second thing for your body language is you may want to smile whenever you present, because that is how you can engage your listeners. That is the second thing.
The smile, what I mean by the smile is that a lot of people stop smiling when they're speaking. So don't forget to smile. Don't smile if you're talking about something serious that really isn't worthy of a smile.
I see. So it suits the occasion.
Yes.
Yeah. The next question what we prepare for you is, what are some wrong focuses public speaking learners might do when practice public speaking?
Okay, so this is a big one. Now, there's a body of research, often misquoted and misused, that looked at what importance the words had versus the tonality of the voice versus the physical gestures. Now, without talking too much about that, the essence of the research started to point out that the words weren't as important in many occasions that we think they were. When we're writing a speech or a presentation, if you're writing it word for word, sort of, you're writing it out word, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to say this. We spend a lot of time writing and editing and writing and editing. And then we go, gosh, I've got to present that this afternoon. I haven't finished writing my conclusion. What the person's done is they've spent a lot of time writing things they won't say unless they read it out word for word, in which case they're wasting their time. What they need to focus on is having a structure, a roadmap, an outline, if you like, and then rehearsing and practicing that and trying those different voices. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. Practice which delivery you want to give those words. So stop focusing on writing out the speech word for word and making sure that it reads really well, and focus on having a general idea about what you want to say and then practicing it and making sure that the voice is expressive.
Do some learners, whenever they write word for word, it means this is the time for them to brainstorm the idea. What do you think about that? Should they still write word by word, or they write down the outline or the structure? What is your advice in this case?
I started, I'll take you back a step. I started off in Toastmasters International. That's where I got my some of my first training. Also got personal coaching, and I was writing it out word for word, and I was rewriting it, and I spent so much time, and I got so attached to all those words I'd spent so much time on. Don't do that. If you can skip that phase and go to this is what I want to say, here's the key points. This is what I want to say. And then you learn just the key points with one exception. Know how you want to begin your presentation or speech. What are the first 3 to 5 sentences? Learn them off by heart. And the last sentences. So you have a conclusion. You've finished your 10-minute presentation, your speech, and then you get into your conclusion. Know that off by heart so that you can stand and look at your audience. You can connect with them and tell them all your amazing conclusion with confidence, knowing that whatever happened in the last 10 minutes is okay because you know exactly what the conclusion is. So memorize and learn off by heart your opening and your conclusion. Know the structure and the middle parts by their key points. Because there's 3 kinds of speeches, don't you?
Yeah.
There's the one that wrote, the one you delivered, and the one afterwards you're going, oh, I should have said that. Oh, I should have said that. Oh, I forgot to say that.
I see. Let me wrap up this point. So for the introduction and also the conclusion, because that is how you capture audience attention, and that is also the moment you leave the last impression on the audience. So you may want to memorize it in order to create impact. And for the body, I think that sometimes we can improvise it because we can use the structure like your advice, and then we improvise it, right?
That's right.
That is, yeah. That is
Can
one.
I show you how that structure works in my women's speaking group? So I run it with a friend of mine. Those are our lovely pictures on the back there. So we run this woman public speaking group, and a lot of the people are very nervous. They start off and they haven't never done this sort of thing before, and we've given them, this is their preparation sheet. That's all there is. Okay, the opening is this part here, the 3 key points, and that's all that's all you need.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is, don't write lots and lots and lots and lots. You probably won't say it.
For sure. Yeah, because at that time we are also nervous, and we may need to improvise in that moment.
Exactly. And if you're connected to what you wrote and you want to say that word for word, what happens? You'll see this. What happens when people are going, what did I write? What were those words that I said? Their eyes often move up to the ceiling, or maybe they move down to the floor, and then they start talking to the floor. And you lose that eye connection and that interaction with your audience when you're trying desperately to remember those words that you spent so much time writing.
Yeah, and we rely on it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I understand the reason behind. So what if you have a shortage of time to prepare a presentation? What should we do? Just like if someone just asked you to deliver a speech immediately, what should you do to come up with the idea and also the presentation?
Right. So that's where something like this would be your most basic structure, this sort of thing, where you sort of say, what are my 3 key points and what is my conclusion? So the most basic structure, opening, and that might be something along the lines of, thank you. Anna's asked me to speak to you today about what are my recommendations. I've got 3 recommendations for you, and I'm going to cover these 3 points. Then you go into the body and you tell them what you're going to tell them. And then your conclusion, so just to summarize, I've told you these 3 things. These are the most important things to remember. Opening, body, and conclusion. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you want to tell them. And then tell them what you told them. And I don't know if that translates very well into other languages, because it's a tongue twister in English.
We understand.
Sorry?
That is how we study as well.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And so it means that at first you have a point, and then you use your body to illustrate that point, and you use your conclusion to summarize that point one more time. So whenever you get into any improvising situation, you can use that structure that Miss Diana just shared with us.
I've got more complicated structures for more longer, more complicated presentations.
Can you share another structure for the complicated one?
Yes. So in my book, I've put it in my book that you can get it on Amazon and order off my own website. I have what I call my speech speed planning template, and that does use the power of 3. So it has that concept of an opening section, 3 key points, if you can make them into 3 key points. And that might be, this is what happened in the past, this is what's happening today, this is what's happening in the future. Or it could be, this is the problem, this is the benefits of what I'm proposing, this is the action step. So you clearly put it into 3. And then you have 3 sections for your conclusion. So just quickly go over the opening can be put into what I call the recognize, review, and reward. Recognize your audience. Hello, it's great to beam into you from all the way down here in New Zealand, and to connect with you over in Vietnam. Acknowledge your audience. I'm looking forward to telling you today some of the key things that I've learned and that I share all the time. And you're going to learn some of it will be basic, but sometimes we need to know the basics before we can move on to the more advanced things. I hope you find something. So you see how you break that down and then you move on. In the conclusion, and this is what a lot of people don't do, and this is my top tip for writing a really impactful conclusion. You summarize what you've told them. You then give them recommendations for action, and then you do one closing, impactful, concluding sentence.
I see. So we have 3 components in your conclusion.
Yeah, summary, recommendation, final conclusion.
That's really awesome. May I ask for the name of the book so that our viewers here can just watch out for it?
This is my book. It's called Anyone Can Speak Confidently. It's the recipe for the public speaking success. And it starts off with saying, here's some ways you can improve your public speaking every day. And then it works up into to situations that you might find yourself in, like a business presentation or speaking up in meetings or a job interview or a specialist speech like a panel discussion, preparing for a panel discussion, or accepting an award, or even giving an award. So there's lots of practical applications in the second half of the book.
That's very useful, Miss. We can find it in Amazon, right?
It's on Amazon, that's correct. And also you can buy it off the paper copy off my website. But Amazon would be your best. See, the postal system from New Zealand's quite slow.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, we can buy it through Kindle. Yeah.
Oh, yes, you can. Yeah, buy it on Kindle. That'd be great.
Yeah, I usually use it. So let's come to the next question. Can you please share some techniques to enhance your presentation impact?
Okay. So I often distinguish between a speech and a presentation.
Sure, it's different.
It is different. So a speech is essentially just you. There might be one prop that you're speaking about, and if this is my cup, my favorite cup. So you might have something like, but still really it's a speech. With that, it's all about audience connection, looking at them, smiling at them, laughing at them, making an emotional connection through storytelling. Okay, so there's a saying we have that is facts, FACTS, facts tell, stories sell. So bringing in stories to make an emotional connection with your audience is really important. So that's one way to engage them. And it might be just taking a few seconds to describe the situation that the event happened in. It was one of those thunderstorm nights where the lightning was going on and the rain was heavy and everything felt wet and warm. And everyone's like going, yep, I know, like those ones are. So they're in the moment with you, right? So that's a really great way of quickly connecting. They're like, yep, I'm there. I know what you're talking about. I know that kind of night. Tell me more. Your storytelling and setting a scene. If you're doing a presentation, it comes a lot down to having the right kind of slides. So a presentation, there might be more props, but usually we're talking about using a PowerPoint or a keynote slide deck. And then it's all about the slide deck supporting what you say and not them sitting there reading it, looking behind you going, what's it say? Yeah. So that's a lot about being good at PowerPoint and having some of those key things in play for, pictures, not words, no bullet points. If there are words, they only come in when you're saying them. Don't put anything on the screen before you've said it. Those sorts of things. And then again, looking at your audience. Not looking at the floor, not looking behind you at the screen and talking to that. Looking at your audience, smiling, laughing, having a connection with them is really important. Now, if it's a longer presentation, maybe you need to stop and ask them questions. And I've got great tips on how do you ask your audience a question? When do you ask it? The key there is another top tip. The key to asking your audience a question. Give them time to respond. Now, there's two types of questions. There's the ones that say things like, do you know what I mean? And you just want them to nod. So you just sort of say, do you know what I mean? And everyone goes, nod, nod, yes, I know what you mean, yes. Then there's the ones where you ask them a question and you want them to answer. And the secret there, the really important secret, is if you ask them a question that you want them to answer, you show them what to do by saying, who here believes that this is justified and can they tell me why? So you show them, you want them to put their hand up. Put your hand up and tell me. So you don't want them just think in their heads. The next thing is be patient. Some people say you might have to count up to 7 before your audience is ready to respond. Because you know what happens? If I asked, you're in my audience, I ask you a question. I'll pretend to be in the audience. The speakers ask the question. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking in my head, yes. Oh, she asks a question. Oh, I know the answer. Is anyone else answering? Oh, I put my hand up. Give them a chance to answer. Don't ask them a question and then keep on talking, because they're sitting there going, but I wanted to answer. I knew the answer. Okay? And that's really hard. It's really hard as a speaker to stand there and look at your audience and wait for them to answer. It takes confidence.
Yeah, it's just like you leave time for them to think, right? Mm, and really respond to you. Miss, I think, yeah, you want to say something, right?
I know. Off you
Okay.
go.
So I think that we are about to come to the end of our live stream here. Do you have any final message that you would like to share with our viewers?
Absolutely. My top tip is to write less, rehearse more.
Mm,
They say practice makes perfection, but
yeah.
you are not aiming for perfection. You're
Mm,
aiming for connection. So don't practice so that you're word perfect. Practice so that you can connect and enjoy a conversation and an interaction with your audience. Write less, rehearse more, but when it comes to that rehearsal, you're aiming for connection, not perfection.
very, very, very meaningful. I need to say that. So relax in rehearse more and engage more. So, hello everyone. We are going to meet each other again today at 12 p.m. and also another live stream session at 8 p.m. with the topic the power of public speaking and also how to present to senior executive. We hope to see you again today. And my name is An. So, thank you so much, Miss Diana Thomson, for joining us today. I do appreciate that.
Been a pleasure. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Bye bye.